We were not young people chasing adventure. We were researchers who had spent our careers waiting for exactly this moment. We told our families we were going on a routine research trip. That was not entirely true. But some discoveries cannot wait for the right moment. 3 days out, the ocean changes when you get far enough from shore. It stops feeling like a place and starts feeling like something alive. When the sonar hit something at 412 meters, we all went quiet. The shape was unmistakable. We had found her. We spent the entire next morning going over every piece of equipment. When you go that deep, there is no margin for error. None.
Sarah had been studying the Herald longer than any of us. 22 years.
We stood there for almost a full minute. Nobody said anything. Some moments do not need words. We looked at each other and we went in. The first 100 meters were almost beautiful. Light still reaches you there. You can still see the surface above. You still feel connected to the world. Below 200 meters, the light disappears completely. Your world becomes whatever your flashlight touches. Everything beyond that is unknown. 380 meters. The pressure at that depth is something your body never fully accepts. Every instinct you have tells you to go back up. And then we saw her, coming up out of the dark like something from another world. 8 years on the bottom of the ocean, and she was still all in one piece. She was 600 feet long, the Herald, just sitting there in the dark exactly where she went down, waiting, patient as the ocean itself. Tanchers. I put my hand on the hull and I thought about the men who built her, the men who sailed her. I thought about November 19. The structural integrity was remarkable. She had settled evenly on a flat section of the ocean floor, almost as if she chose her resting place carefully. Going inside a wreck at 400 meters is a different calculation entirely. We had planned this moment for months, every detail accounted for, or so we believed. Inside, it was like stepping into 1943. The cold water had preserved everything. Cups still on shelves. There were photographs on the walls. Men smiling. Family portraits. Someone had drawn a calendar on a notepad. And then Sarah stopped moving. She was pointing her light at something on the far wall. We both looked. Someone had written on the wall. Not in 1943. Those words were recent. Someone had been here.
The journal was in the captain's quarters, on the shelf above his desk, like he had just set it down and stepped out for a moment, like he was coming back.
The captain's handwriting, his observations, his concerns. And then we turned to the last page, and everything we thought we knew stopped making sense. We sat on that deck for a long time before anyone spoke. Because once you say something out loud, it becomes real. Getting back on that deck felt different than every dive before it. We had answers now. We just did not understand any of them yet.
We treated that journal like it might disappear if we looked away. 80 years underwater and somehow the pages had survived. I have read hundreds of historical documents in my career. None of them prepared me for this one. The handwriting was steady.
Sarah had spent 2 decades studying this ship. She knew every name on that crew list by heart.
Captain Holloway had commanded the Herald for 3 years. By every account, a careful man, methodical, not someone prone to exaggeration or fear.
His final entries described something his crew detected on sonar. Something massive. Something that did not match any known vessel, friendly or enemy.
The crew reported strange lights beneath the surface, equipment malfunctions across the entire ship. The captain wrote that the captains. His last full entry read simply, "We are not alone down here, and I do not believe we are meant to leave." Nobody said anything for almost a full minute. 80 years of naval records had called the Herald's disappearance an unexpected. We anchored where we were and decided to wait until morning before deciding what came next. None of us said it directly, but nobody wants. Around midnight, our equipment technician called us all back to the cabin. He had picked something up on the sonar. Pigeons. We stood on that deck for nearly an hour just watching the water. Logic told us it was probably nothing.
We debated for hours. Some of us wanted to leave at first light. Others, myself included, knew we would regret it for the rest.
By morning, we had made our decision. We came here for answers, and we were not leaving with half of one.
This time we prepared differently. We added redundant communication systems, extra lighting. We planned every. Sarah insisted on recording everything this time. She said if something happened to us, the world deserved to know what we found. We stood at that same platform edge. The water looked the same. We did not feel the same. The second descent felt faster somehow. Maybe because we knew exactly where we were going. Maybe because some part of us wanted to get the waiting over with. 300 meters, 350. We were moving faster than the day before, and the ocean felt different, heavier somehow, like it knew we were coming back. When the Herald came into view again, something was different. Sarah noticed it first. The hatch we had entered through the day before. It was closed. We had left it open. Metal does not move on its own at 400 meters. There is no current down there strong enough. Someone, or something, had closed that door after we left. We had a choice in that moment. Turn back, or open that hatch and find out what we were truly dealing with. I think we all knew which one we would choose before we even discussed it. The door opened easier than expected, almost like it wanted to let us in. And what our lights revealed on the other side was something none of us were prepared for. This room made no sense. Every other compartment showed 80 years of decay. This one looked like it had been sealed yesterday. The walls were covered in charts, star positions, ocean current patterns, and symbols none of us recognized, mixed in with. Sarah recognized the star positions immediately. She said later that the chart was astronomically accurate for November 1943.
We spent nearly 20 minutes in that room before anyone said a word. There was simply too much to process.
In the corner there was a box. Sealed, metal, completely intact. Whatever was inside it had survived. The box opened easier than we expected, considering how long it had been sitting there. Almost as if it had been maintained somehow. Inside were photographs, the crew smiling for the camera in most of them. But in 3 of the photos there was something in the background, something none of us could explain. In this one photograph, taken on the deck, there was a shape under the water just behind them. I have studied thousands of historical photographs in my career. I could not explain this one. It was not damage to the documents. Beneath the photographs were more documents. Detailed observations spanning nearly 2 months before the ship's disappearance. The lights flickered, just for a moment, all 3 of ours at exactly the same time. We checked our equipment immediately. Our equipment readings became inconsistent. Pressure sensors fluctuating by small but measurable amounts. Nothing dangerous yet, but nothing that made sense either. Something moved at the edge of our light. Probably a fish. Deep ocean creatures behave unpredictably at that depth. That is what we told ourselves in that moment anyway. Since we made the decision together, without much discussion needed. We had what we came for. It was time to surface, and leaving that room felt different than entering it had. We were not running, we were simply done. There is a difference between fear and The ascent took nearly 40 minutes, following proper decompression protocols. 40 minutes with nothing to do but think about what we had just seen. During the decompression stops, you cannot do anything but wait and think. I kept looking at that metal box secured to my equipment. Breaking the surface after that dive felt different than any dive before it. We had answers now. We just were not entirely certain we wanted them. We sat on that deck for a long time before opening the box again. Some discoveries need a moment to breathe before you are ready to face what they truly mean.
We approached it the way any careful researcher would. Document everything. Photograph each item before touching it again.
I spent hours cross-referencing every detail in those notes against official naval archives. Most of it matched perfectly. Sarah ran the star charts through modern astronomical software. Every single position was accurate to the minute for that exact.
Here is what truly troubled us. We compared the handwriting in the final entries against earlier ones in the same journal. Captain Holloway did not write those final words. Someone else did, using his journal after he was already gone.
We had 3 days of supplies left and 100 new questions for every answer we found. None of us were ready to leave yet. We worked through most of that night, comparing notes, cross-referencing every detail.
There was a second set of coordinates hidden in the margin of one photograph. Tiny handwriting, almost invisible unless you knew exactly.
The coordinates pointed to a location nearly 2 kilometers from where we found the wreck. Somewhere none of the official searches over the...
We agreed to investigate at first light. Whatever Captain Holloway wanted us, he had taken us to find. As the sun came up, we moved the vessel to the new coordinates. None of us said much. We all understood the water here felt different somehow, calmer, almost as if this part of the ocean had been waiting peacefully for someone to finally come looking. At around 300 meters, the ocean floor began to change. Natural rock formations giving way to something with far too fleet. What we found was not another ship. It was something else entirely. Smooth, geometric. I reached out and touched it. The surface was warm. At 400 meters down, in water that should have been near freezing,
We floated there for a long time, taking it in. Whatever this was, it had been here long before the Herald sank in 1943.
means we found an opening along the eastern side, narrow but large enough for a person to pass through. The question was not this. I made the call. We had come too far and answered too few questions to turn back now. Sarah and the professor agreed with assurance. The inside was nothing like the exterior suggested. The space opened up far larger than seemed physically possible. The symbols from the hidden room on the Herald were everywhere here. Captain Holloway had not invented a language. At the center, carefully arranged, were personal items. A naval cap, a wedding ring, a photograph. Nobody spoke for a long time. Whatever question we came down here looking to answer suddenly felt smaller than the moment we found ourselves standing in.
Inside the ring was an inscription. To my husband, who always looked at the stars and wondered what was looking back.
As we stood there, the symbols on the walls began to glow faintly, almost as if responding to our presence. Sarah told me later that in that moment she finally understood why Captain Holloway chose to stay. Some discoveries are too important to leave behind.
We left everything exactly as we found it. Some discoveries are not meant to be taken.
The ascent felt lighter than any dive before it somehow, despite everything we now carried with us.
We surfaced into the kind of bright afternoon that makes you remember why the ocean is worth all the risk it demands from people like us. Greet us. We spent the journey home deciding how to share what we found. Some truths deserve careful handling.
Coming back into that harbor felt different than leaving it had. We were the same three people who left weeks earlier.
Captain Holloway waited 80 years for someone to finally understand what he found. We were honored it was us.